to pivot a little bit just more around learning because, one of the things a lot of times Scrum Masters are either put in that role or they go through like a couple of day training and say, okay, you're a Scrum Master. And it's a lot. But one of the things that I've seen you, obviously you were kind of born, your career was born in Agile, like the first role you went into was in Agile. But at the same time, I see you constantly trying to educate yourself via podcasts, books, articles. Just kind of want to hear your journey. Like how have you evolved as a Scrum Master, maybe recently, or maybe even like 60 to 90 days? What were you like before versus like what's your mindset now, maybe,
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think one of the things that I've done really well in the last 60 to 90 days, especially I'm noticing with my current teams is, creating less dependency on me for my team. Even though my team is fairly new to Agile and newly formed, they're nowhere close to mastering the Scrum process. But despite that, what's really neat is I don't find myself needing to jump in to fix things for my team. And in the past, when I've worked with teams, I used to find myself in a situation, and I'm sure a lot of Scrum Masters out there have felt this way at some point in their career, where in the process of being helpful, you kind of create this need for your team to become excessively reliant on you. And over time, what I've noticed is that becomes disempowering for them, and you become the bottleneck. A perfect example that I can think of as a Scrum Master is, I maybe as a Scrum Master, I noticed that, a team discussion is needed, to share the analysis work that was done. And, when you suggest that as a Scrum Master, the team like agrees or maybe nod their head, or someone will say, hey, can you schedule that for us? Like there isn't that ownership from the team member to say, I agree a session to talk through the finding will give us the understanding that we need to do our work better in the next sprint. I'll go ahead and throw something in our calendar to share, what I've learned in the sprint with my team. So then you feel it's necessary, as a Scrum Master to do it on behalf of those shy team members, right? And so you do it once and then twice out of necessity. But over time, two things happen. You create a habit for yourself to always become involved, even when it's not necessary. And then the team also gets used to this behavior and starts to depend on you to do things for them. And don't get me wrong. I still, as a Scrum Master, it's still my role to make sure people get the value they need out of the event. And then until the team is self-organized enough, I need to showcase what a successful daily Scrum or a sprint planning looks like. I'm not saying you don't need to intervene when the situation calls for it and do what's necessary to help the team or the group move forward toward outcome. It's actually a Scrum Master job to help the team strive a good level of self-management. But if you're not being mindful, which is what I've noticed with myself, because I tend to over nurture, and I tend, over time I tend to over assume the level of self-management of the team itself. So now I don't do just things for my team. It's the same concept that I'm sure you've heard of too, and I think we've all heard of. Instead of giving someone a fish, teach them how to fish, right? Instead of always being the one to fulfill the role of a facilitator and trying to remove all and any bottlenecks, allow the team to learn by doing something poorly, like let them have a bad daily Scrum.
Absolutely.
So we as a humans, I think, learn when we make mistakes. That's how I learn. I know it's not always nice, but the team takes more ownership of their future actions as they really feel the impact their actions make and what might be the downside of it, right? So over time, I want the team to own the Scrum framework. And sometimes I make them a Scrum Master. Sometimes I go into a daily Scrum and I say, hey, like pick a person to be a facilitator. You guys have seen how daily Scrum how I have, run the daily Scrum in the past. What are the things that we're trying to get out of the session? And they run the Scrum board, and I do it just like once a week. And then we kind of rotate. So I would say, just don't, it's dangerous to make yourself more important than you are.